Hey, Emma, would you help guide that one little guy so we can know where he's going in the wind? All right, are we set? So today we're talking about staying on course, part 4. What? We have talked a lot about staying on course because we're getting ready to start a 30-week series on blessings. And you think, my gosh, that is a lot to talk about. But at the end of the day, every one of us want to be blessed. We thank God for our food. We say a blessing. Everybody says, has this food been blessed? And some people say, well, no, I just trust you. I hope you cooked it okay. And then, we don't have to say a prayer. But the fact of the matter is, we want to be blessed. We want all sorts of blessings. We're continually asking God for things in our life every day, for guidance here, for direction. And all of those are forms of blessing. And I don't think that we can wear out blessing. So we're going to talk a lot about blessing. But to prepare ourselves to be blessed, you have to be in position. You have to have things in place. In order to get good jobs in life, typically you go to college and you get a level of education. That puts you in position. Doctors can't go and just be doctors, even if they want to fake it. We talked about that, unless they go to college for it. So we talked about all of these different things that we kind of need in our lives. We all have a call in our life. And God anoints us with a call. And your call is different from somebody else's. But your call is specific for you, and you have an anointing from God to live out that call. And nobody else can fulfill that call but you. And then we talked about last week, we talked about letting go. But some of that letting go, you actually have a voice in. And we talked about how Lot was brought out by the angels and preserved to get out of Sodom and Gomorrah. But at first they were going to send him to the mountain. He was like, whoa! I don't do heights. Well, he didn't say that, but he said he didn't want to go there. And so the angels went, okay, well then we'll let you go over here. And that helps us to understand that we do have a voice in the matter. And that just because God doesn't send us off to go do this or go do that, it's going to just be, that's the way it is and that settles it. We do get to go before God. He says, come boldly before the throne. And ask him, God, what can you do for me? How can you help me? I need this situation in my life. And God says, well, I decided that I want you to be a construction worker. You're like, good, I like that. But maybe I don't want to be a framer. He goes, okay. Then you do mason work. I don't know, whatever. God comes up with something for all of us to have our own individual and specific call. Speaking of that, he had a call on a guy named Noah. Now, Noah was probably thinking about this. Can you guys visualize Noah for a second? Getting ready to make this ark. He goes to him and says, hey, Noah, I want you to make an ark. Noah's like, okay. So Noah gets out the big old tree bark. I don't think they had parchment paper yet then. And he's drawing out there and he's trying to calculate these different angles to make this ark, and he works on that, and that doesn't work, and the kids start fighting. He has to break that up. Then he gets back to trying to draw on the ark again, and then the kids start fighting. He breaks that up, and he's trying to get this ark all figured out. And he said, oh, God, what do I do for wood? And he said, I want you to build it out of gopher wood. And okay. So Noah's putting in, okay, we're going to do for, and he's getting. And all of a sudden, like weeks go by, months go by, time keeps going by. And Noah's like, God, I just don't understand what's taking so long to get this ark going. And God said, Noah, I said, go for wood. And you don't get the joke. Okay, so the point is, he did ask him to build it out of gopher wood, but he had to press in. And that's what we're going to talk about today when we're staying on course, is pressing in. How far do we have to push? Noah built an ark for 100 years. He's pressing in. Wow, what does it take in our own lives as we experience so many different things? You start to go, I don't know. I don't know if I like this. I don't know if I'm about this. And it becomes hard. So we're going to be talking about the story of the Israelites and Moses coming to get them actually out of Egypt. So it's Exodus chapters 4 through 11. I thought we would sit and read it all, but some people said at lunchtime might impede, so we're going to try and condense it. But if you get to Exodus 4 in your Bibles, and you can kind of follow along as we go, it'll really help you understand. So Moses has already been approached in the burning bush. Moses already knows that he has to go back to Pharaoh, and he has to talk to him about freeing these the Israelites out of Egypt. And so Moses is able to get an audience with the king only because he grew up in the king's house. So he has a leg up to even get there. And he brings his brother along because Moses doesn't speak very well. I don't know if people realize that. Whenever you watch the story of Moses and you watch the video, Moses is always like so grandiose and everything, but he actually was very poor speaking. And so he had to have his brother talk for him and do a lot for him as they did this. So they worked in unison. But the point is, Moses and Aaron go before Pharaoh and they say, hey, listen, we think it's time up. Time's up. We think that you need to let the people go. They have served you long enough. Let them go live their lives and be free people. Free them from your slavery. Now think about this from an Israelite standpoint for a second. The Israelites are being told by Moses, hey, listen, I've got a great thing and it's going to help you out. Anybody ever had something in life where you're like, hey, this is really going to be good for me? This is a good blessing. This is a good something that's coming into our life. And I can't wait to be blessed. This is exciting. Maybe it's we're going to get a new house. Maybe it's we're going to get a new car. Maybe it's that we're having another child. Maybe it's we're getting married, for crying out loud. It could be any of these types of blessings that you get all excited about. And then you start to see this blessing unfold, and it's not quite what you thought it would be. It doesn't quite turn out the way you hoped it to turn out. So can you imagine being an Israelite, you're a slave, and Moses is like, hey guys, we're going to get you out of here. I'm taking care of it. And wouldn't you kind of hold on to that? You ever held on to somebody tell you something, they give you their word, and you're like, yes, I'm holding on to this. And then things don't quite go the way you imagined it to go, and you're like, time out. This is bothering me. So Moses is telling everybody, hey, we're going to get you guys out of here. You're going to be freed, and everything's going to change. Moses stands before Pharaoh and says, let these guys go. We need to make changes. And Pharaoh's like, no, I'm not doing. What are you nuts? You need to go see a shrink. Go talk to somebody. But you're not coming to me and asking me to get rid of my entire workforce just because you asked. Who do you think you are? Get out of here. And then he goes on to say, if all those goofballs believe him, make them work harder. I want them to make more bricks without straw. They have to now gather the straw. That's the hay. Just thinking about it. But that they have to go gather the straw to do it themselves. Now, can you imagine being the Israelite? Well, thank you, Moses. You told us you're going to help us out. Thank you for the blessing. And now it's double the work. Now it just got harder. How many times do you ever hear the saying, no good deed goes unpunished? Oh, yeah. God, thank you for helping me out. Now my life's a living hell. I'm enjoying this. This is great. It's hard. We feel these things. We see these things, and you're like, you've got to be kidding me. Don't think the Israelites were just sitting there going, oh, hallowed be thy name, God, we thank you. No. They're like, this is horrible. This stinks. I don't want to live a life like this. This is ridiculous. Now we have to work just as hard. And they keep going. So Moses is like, yeah, okay. We'll work on this. We got this. We go back to Pharaoh. We talk to him some more. Hey, Aaron, throw your rod down. Aaron throws down his rod. It turns to a serpent. And then Pharaoh has his guys his magicians, throw down rods, and they turn to serpents. The only good thing is that Aaron's rod ate the other ones. Okay, for those of you that don't like snakes, then there instead of 3, there were just 1. Okay, to deal with it makes it a little bit better. But the fact of the matter is, they're sitting there dealing with this. They're not seeing any progress. In the meantime, they're still over here working. Haven't you ever felt like your life is in the meantime? Everybody, you watch these things, and we love that people post on Facebook, right? They have it all perfect, all the perfect things that are going on. But in the meantime is actually really happening. In the meantime, we're struggling to make this happen. In the meantime, we're trying to get through this. In the meantime, we're beating our head against the wall. How can God give us a blessing? How can God give us a promise of a blessing? I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to free you from Egypt and then make us work even harder than we did before. It doesn't feel like the blessing's here. It doesn't feel like anything's here. And I can tell you exactly what the Israelites did because we all do it because it's human nature. Is this God? Is this good? Maybe God didn't call us to do it. Maybe we're not supposed to be even. You know what? I can just hear the dad trying to coax his kids that are teenagers. Just keep your mouth shut. Just get the straw. Don't say anything. Next thing you know, we'll be mixing everything. We'll be doing 10 times the work. Just don't say anything. I don't know what. That's what we do. As soon as we start to feel a challenge, we pull in. Oh, maybe I ventured out too far. Maybe I did too much. I'm too vulnerable. I'm getting too many attacks. I don't want to endure this. I don't like this. And the Egyptians or the Israelites are no different. They're feeling that. Absolutely, they're feeling that. And that's why Jesus gives us parables in the Bible to help us to understand that our lives are parallel to many different things that are going on. So these guys continue to go on. So, oh man, what are we going to now? Now we have nothing. This is harder, and you give us this promise. And we have what? What's going to make our life any better? And at this point, Moses questions why. Have you ever had that moment? We all have had that moment. You sit there and go, wait a second. And I love the words that God says to Moses. He's like, time out, homeboy. I'm Yahweh. I'm it. I've got this. You ever had somebody you're trying to help do a project? You're trying to help them. And they're like, just watch. Just let go. When my dad would do different things and I was trying to help as a kid and be eager, sometimes he just said, just watch. And he would do things. Oh, I see. That's how that's done. God's looking at Moses. He's saying, hey, just watch. Don't panic. Don't freak out. I'm God. Pharaoh's not God. I'm in charge of the Israelites. Pharaoh's not. I'm letting him be there, but that's about to change. It's very hard for us to see that. It's very hard for us to see anything where you go, God, what do you... If I'm going to go through this, I need more than what I'm feeling. I need more than what I'm experiencing. What do we start doing? God, would you give me a sign? Can you give me a sign? I like it. You know, I give the scripture a lot. The path of the righteous is like the light of dawn. It shines brighter and brighter. So as we walk forward and Christ shows us the direction, we get to realize more and more where we're going. Those are signs. So now think of yourself as an Egyptian. Okay, our sign is we have to work harder. That's our sign. If you look at it at face value, does that make sense? Is that insane? Oh, good. Now I have to do double the work. We got all on this guy's board. We told him hip, hip, hooray, and now we're all working harder. This is great. So God says, all right, I'll help you. I'm going to send a plague. He didn't tell him he was going to do 10 plagues. We read it now as 10 plagues, right? But the fact of the matter is, Moses didn't know how many he was going to do, and neither did the people. It's always nice to be able to look at everything in armchair quarterback. It's nice to be able to look at everything from hindsight and go, well, once they just went through the 10 plagues, God delivered them. Well, let's talk about those plagues. Let's talk about how easy that was. Okay, the first plague. So Moses, again, is going to Pharaoh. And he's like, I'm serious. You ever have somebody that's a goofball that's always trying to tell jokes and everything, and you don't know when they're serious? Somebody's looking at me like that's me. I'm not saying that's me. But sometimes people don't know when you're serious. So Moses is going to Pharaoh trying to say, hey, I'm serious about this. Let the people go. And what does Pharaoh do? No, I don't know. I'm not sure. Yada, yada, yada. They're going through it. Moses tells Aaron, cast his rod. All the water turns to blood. Okay, wow, that's pretty miraculous. That's kind of cool. Pharaoh's magicians go to water and turn it to blood. Not that significant. All of a sudden, it loses its level of significance. But now, the poor slaves who work all day in the hot sun, I don't know, Egypt's pretty hot. I see lots of pictures, never been there. Wait, I did fly over it. It's like a big sandbox, that's all I noticed. It's hot, and you need water when you're hot, but there's no water. So they had to dig in the ground to get water because everything had turned to blood. The fish are dying. Everybody loved the smell of dying fish. Anybody love to go to the lake when there's some dead fish in the area? Isn't that the best? You're like, yeah, let's swim in this. This is great. I'm loving it. No, we don't like it. Now, can you imagine living that you have to dig for your water? And once again, oh, thanks, Moses. You said we're going to be delivered. You said our life's going to get better. And it's only getting worse. This is great. You ever feel that way coming to church? The pastor said I'm going to be blessed. He's always talking about how I'm going to be blessed. But guess what happened this week? Disaster after disaster. I can barely keep my feet in front of the other. It's so hard. Why am I going through all of this? Oh, we're just walking out the plagues, guys. It's just part of the steps. God has the big plan. We're going to sit tight. So then, okay, that doesn't work out. I can't even imagine the stench because I don't like some of those things. Then they do the frog plague because Pharaoh's like, yeah, I'm not doing this. You're not scaring me. So they do the staff again. Now frogs come everywhere. Okay? Frogs don't bother me. I love toads. I throw them little crickets and stuff. Like to watch them trying to eat at night, you know? My mom doesn't like them, though. She gives her the willies. But these are so bad that they're in everybody's house. They're in everything. Open the flower, there's a frog. Go to bed, you got to clear the frogs off your bed so you can sleep. They're jumping back on you. They pee on you. They do that a lot. You might be getting warts. I don't know. But what I do know is it's annoying. It's obnoxious. People don't like it. But Pharaoh's magicians, no big deal. We can make frogs too. So now, imagine being the poor Israelite. You still have to be going and doing your work every day. Now you're tripping over frogs, you're stepping on frogs, they're jumping all over the place. You lose your balance. You step on one, you slip like stepping on a banana peel. I can only imagine all the frustrations they have with these stupid frogs everywhere. They're like, oh my gosh, Moses, quit it. Quit it. Don't do anything. Look, we're sick of it. We got the water restored. Now you give us frogs. What are you doing? You said you're going to get us out of this. You said you're going to help us. Kind of like our lives. This is supposed to get better. I'm not supposed to go through all this stuff. I'm not supposed to have all this hardship. But the greatest blessing that they would ever have in their life, to be free, was coming. They didn't see it. Not that I'm judging them, because sometimes I don't see it. I'm like, God, what are you doing? This is rough. I feel like I can't take much more of this. I'm having a hard time. I don't want to keep pressing in. I don't want to press on. This doesn't feel like fun to me. But he keeps going. And then they have gnats. And everybody knows how fun gnats are. You got to put a bunch of stuff all over your ears and everything else. Just diesel. Just wipe your arms in diesel and let them just die, right? The fact of the matter is it's pretty rough. And they have gnats. But this time, the magicians aren't able to do it. And then they have flies. Well, we all feel like we still have a plague of flies. We live in Carr, Colorado. The only day you're not going to deal with flies is today because the wind's blowing 200 miles an hour. Otherwise, the flies are there. We either have wind or flies. That's what we have. And we have flies all the time, but not like they had. They had flies just swarming. It was like I went to a hotel when I was in Africa in an area called Taita Taveta. And I went into this hotel room, and they've got mosquito netting, and they're just like everywhere. And I'm just walking, clapping as I'm just killing mosquitoes. I'm going, oh man, this is malaria for sure. This is a lot. I can't even imagine what they're talking about with the flies. We've all tried to do construction work outside. Be out there with flies bugging you. There's always the one that's like coming in your mouth, your eye, everywhere. And you're constantly trying, and then they bite you right in the middle of your back. That's what flies do. That's what they're there for. And the fact of the matter is, they're dealing with that. And they're sitting there going, Moses, you keep going to Pharaoh. You keep giving us one disaster after another. How is God going to bless me? How am I to stay on course? I can barely keep making bricks. I have double the work now, and you're adding things that make it more uncomfortable. But it didn't mean they weren't in the will of God. It didn't mean that they didn't have a destination. It didn't mean that he didn't have things going for them. What it meant was they needed to be still to see he's God. At the end of the day, he told Moses, I'm Yahweh. I'm the beginning and the end, the first and the last. I am. How significant that is, we can never comprehend in our own minds. Yet we sit there and ask, and I don't get it, I don't see. And Moses, if you have such an inside deal with this guy, could you get God to make it a little bit easier? And so they try again, and now they get the bubonic plague, or a plague. They say the plague. Kind of like the fruit story we're talking about with Adam and Eve. We don't really know if it was an apple. We know it was fruit. The plague could have been bubonic plague or something like that. But listen to this. Listen to this. For the first time, the Israelites' animals did not die. Only the Egyptians' animals died. So we have a distinction. For once, they get to see a little bit of reprieve. They get to see, wait a second, I'm not having to endure all of this. Somebody else is. Maybe God is getting ready to deliver us. Maybe God is helping us. This is good. I like it. We're headed in a good direction. You ever get to that point in your life where you're like, God, give me a sign, give me a sign, give me a sign. And finally you find this little nugget and you're like, hey, I think we're on the right track. But get ready, it's about to get shattered. So then what happens is Pharaoh still's like, yeah, okay, well, you may do this with the animals and stuff. Do as you like, but listen, we're moving on. So then they have hail. So these guys have to go and be preserved. God preserves the Israelites while hail rains down on everybody else. Oh, that's a nice feeling. But that's not it. And actually, I told you the hail before the boils, didn't I? I didn't say boils. Boils. Anybody ever had that? Like your cow gets something right on his jaw and you have to slice it and squeeze the toothpaste out? Pretty nasty. That's what we're talking. These guys have boils that are going up on them all over their bodies, and they're busting open, and they're miserable. They're miserable. Think about it. We've all had that one zit one time somewhere in our life where you had that one zit you thought was going to be the end of your life. It was like driving you crazy and you couldn't get it to pop or whatever the issue is. This is what it's like, a mega zit. You're dealing with this all over your body. They're dealing with it too. And they still need to keep doing their work. It becomes very difficult when you feel like, God, what am I doing? Why do I press forward? Why do I have all of these things that go on in my life? How am I even to barely stay on course when everything else hits me constantly? This pulls me down. It pulls me back. It sucks the life out of me. And Moses is telling me, sit tight, guys. God's going to deliver you. At what point would you be saying, I believe this? Do we think that all these plagues happened in 10 days? No. Plagues happen for days on end. We don't even know the course of time, but we're at this several weeks already of going through all of these plagues. Anybody have that? Were you just trying to get through the next step and you got something going on? You're like, okay, I'm living in hell right now, but in 4 weeks I'll get out of this. And then only to have the next thing happen. And in 5 weeks, maybe I'll get through this one. And then it felt like college, huh? That's what it felt like to me. I didn't like it. But the fact of the matter is, we continue to have these issues. And we're like, Lord, what are you doing? And then it's locusts. And then it's darkness. And then the Passover, the firstborn. But you know what? At the end of the day, finally, they were delivered. Did that mean that they were blessed? Yes. They were freed? Yes. Does that mean that as soon as you're blessed, you don't have any more problems? No. See, the Israelites were blessed. They got out of the bondage of slavery only to get a whole new set of challenges. See, if God's going to give you a major blessing, more than likely you're going to have a major hardship. Because the measure that God can bring you through an issue is the measure he can get you a blessing without you going into pride. If you have these issues and you're like, oh, well, look at God gave me this, God gave me that, da, 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 da. You see people, they tell the stories, you read the statistics, people that win the lottery. They don't know what to do with themselves. They don't know what to do with the money, and it's squandered in very short time. Why? They're not ready. They're not in position. They're not prepared. If you want to be blessed and have a long-term sustainability, you have to walk through hell and high water. You have to feel the fire. You have to feel the refining. You have to experience the hardships, because then it's so much easier when you have the blessing to look at somebody and say, I know what that's like. Well, you may not have ever experienced exactly what they're experiencing, but you know the pain. You know the pain of disappointment. You know the pain that they're going through. Maybe not their pain, but you can feel it. And it helps you to be the person that they need in their life, to share to somebody else, to give to somebody else, and you get to continue to enjoy blessings. Because if you want to survive, you have to press in. You can't just sit back and be like, well, The Egyptians were hard on the Israelites, and the Israelites had to continue to press in. Our biggest temptation when it's hard is to raise our hands up and say, this must not be from God. This must not be a sign from God. He may have put this in my heart, but it doesn't make sense because this is too hard. This is uncomfortable. I don't like this. This is uneasy. Ever tell you guys the first time I ever rode in a helicopter? I'd never been in a helicopter before in my life. And my sergeant comes to me and says, hey, hop in the helicopter. You got to show them the path for the street fair thing. I'm like, all right. So I get in the helicopter, I sit down, and I'm like trying to look cool, but I'm scared to death. And I'm bracing my feet against these pedals, and the helicopter pilot, who's a retired cop, says, hey, dude, relax. I won't kill you, but you got to take your feet off those pedals because we can't fly without them. I'm like, oh, yeah, sure, yeah. I'm a wreck. But there was a blessing, and it was really cool to get to see what I got to see and experience what I got to experience. You have to understand that sometimes you're going to be uncomfortable. And all of that stuff grinding against you isn't God punishing you and chastising you. It's God getting ready to bless you so you can experience a blessing that nobody else will have. If you want blessings, if you want to be free from slavery, you have to press in and stay on course. Will you please stand with me? We as the Car Community Church will always present Christ's doors of heaven to everybody. If you'd like to make Jesus your Savior,